Screen. Okay, welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting for the Corporation of the Township of Portsmouth on June 29, 2021, special council meeting for our budget. And I will start with roll call. Give me one moment. There's a transport truck on my road.
Did I miss something?
He just said he wanted a moment. There was a large truck going by or something.
Oh,
Sorry about that. And I will start with roll call. Is it Councillor Ballmer's turn to go first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Ballmer,
here.
Councillor Goida,
Present.
Councillor Spoulos,
Present.
and Councillor Bailey.
Here.
I'm obviously here, and we will now start our moment of reflection. Okay, that concludes our moment of reflection. Ms. White-Fox, could you read up the resolution for confirmation of the agenda, please?
The council approves the June 29th, 2021 agenda and addendum as circulated.
Can you move it for that, please?
Move.
Councillor Spoulos, second. Councillor
second.
Goida. All right, all in favor. Councillor Ballmer,
Favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
That's carried. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest today? Okay. Seeing none. Guess we'll get right into the reports. So we'll go to the first report. And I believe we're on page 7 of the agenda. What we'll do is we'll just review each question and see if council members are happy with the comments. And if you want to add any additional comments, that would be your opportunity. We'll just go through each question. So the first one we're going to deal with was question number 1. And it is what went well during the budget process. And I'm sure everybody's comfortable with those comments that were provided. And I don't see, and if any, and if you have an additional item, just speak up, try and go through this. So now on to question 2. Were there parts that were cumbersome? And we have 3 comments provided. Does anybody have anything additional they want to provide, or?
I think I had a question on number 2.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Ballmer.
So I agreed with the comments that I saw from Councillor, hold on a second, from Councillor Bailey, Goida, and the fire chief. And I just wanted to check with the clerk. Does she believe that her comments would be addressed, or her concerns might be addressed through this new process?
So for Ms. White-Fox.
Sorry, yes, I was just jumping down to
See what you
the-
said, yeah.
yes, exactly what I said. So yes, I do. I think that my comment was more just looking for some more collaboration with the leadership team through the process, and I do think that it will be addressed. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So that was a comment from staff that you had a question on, Councillor Ballmer?
Yes.
Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll just stick to the councillors' comments first, and then we'll go to that part of the report after. That way it'll save people bouncing back and forth, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Okay. So question 3 of councillors' comments. Are there suggestions that would improve or streamline the process? Any additional comments in there?
Yeah, I guess I would agree with the other members of council's comments there. Gotta change
right.
some things here. Oh,
You're
geez.
still unmuted, Councillor Ballmer. I'll just warn you, I don't mind and just let you know. Number 4, did you have the information you need to make informed decisions? And there's quite a amount of comments there. Anything further that we felt that we need to add to give to staff? Okay, this is going well. Number 5, was there too much information? Anything further than that? Okay. Number 6, if you could improve one thing in the budget process, what would it be? We all had comments on that one.
Just a moment, if you could, Mr. Chair. I'm completely lost now. Just give me a
Sorry.
second.
Yeah, no problem. We're on page 10 of the agenda.
No, it's okay. Just give me a second. You have to understand, I can't hear you and my computer at the same time as we're going through this. Just give me a second.
No problem. I'm sorry if I'm going too fast. I can slow it down.
No, it's just, I have to change how I'm doing everything. Hold on. I have to make my computer quieter and you louder so that one of you're dominant and it's submissive. Okay. And which question are we on, please, Mr. Chair?
Number 6, page
Okay,
10.
just a moment. Okay, could I go back to question 5?
You may.
Yeah, I had a question for Councillor Goida and Councillor Bailey made some comments regarding that, and I just wanted to same question I had for the clerk. Do they think after they've seen this report or understood the new process, do you think that the concerns they expressed back in February or April or March when we submitted these, do you think they might be addressed by this new process?
Ms. Whiteflex or Mr. CEO, where is he?
This was for Councillor Bailey and Councillor Goida. They made some comments, and I didn't know if they felt that they may have changed their mind. Seeing what the new process might look like would address the concerns that they expressed.
Sorry, I misunderstood that. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, looking back, Councillor Ballmer, I do anticipate, for me, it was seeing things in a silo perspective up to now, and I'm seeing how moving forward, things should be integrated better for me. So that's what I am expecting to see with this process. Thank you.
Good.
Councillor Goida?
Yeah, I would agree. I guess part of what I was saying was I feel that when staff go to the trouble of preparing information that I have to go through it and understand it all, and sometimes I don't, and maybe that's okay, but I think through this new process, hopefully, hopefully I don't need to even be looking at those spreadsheets because the flow will just kind of naturally explain. So I guess the answer is I don't know for sure, but I would think so.
Super. Thanks. Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
CEO?
Sure. One thing I'll add is just as a reminder throughout this whole process, as we're going through the budget, if we try and give you the information that council requires to make your decisions, but if there's something that you ever want additional information, please let us know. Please feel free to ask questions, because us as staff, we see this information all day, every day, and sometimes we forget that you're not involved in it every day and you don't have the same exposure to it that we do. So please feel free at any time just to ask for further clarification or more information. The whole goal is for you to be comfortable with the decisions that you're making.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. CEO. All right, question number 6. If you could improve one thing in the budget process, what would it be? And there's a few comments there. Is there anything further? Anybody want to add?
Just a moment. Yeah, I had a question for Councillor Sepoulis on his comments. Not that I don't disagree with them. I just want to make sure I understand them. I think they were similar to the CAO's comments. So I guess I have a question for staff regarding the target. The report talked about having a budget development and control policy. And would that policy possibly include the sort of the establishment of an annual target that is sort of staff's, sort of default direction? And the second part of that, does it necessarily have to be a tax focused target, or could it be an objective focused target? Or an outcomes focused target, I guess would be another word to use. That'd be a question for staff.
I'll try and answer that. Typically what we'll do is during this budget visioning or the feedback and the goals for the coming year, what we would ask for council is what's your approximate range of a target, and you would give us then direction. Obviously there might be some difference of opinions amongst council, but then you would get a consensus and give us something that we would at least work towards. Obviously we have to include the information that's necessary and the costs that we know of in projects like that. But if we know, for example, that you're saying no more than 3% or something like that, then at least staff have that in mind as they're going through and doing something. And that's not saying that they would automatically increase it to that. That's just, each year situations are different. So it wouldn't necessarily be stipulated in the budget policy that the annual increase would be X. It would have a comment something like, and a target would be determined for each year at the start of the budget process, just so that we have something to go on. Not that staff goes through, prepares the whole thing, presents it to council, and it comes in at say a 2%, and then council says, well, no, we want maximum of 1.5. So then you have to go back and redo everything. So it's better if we know the target that council has right from the beginning.
Oh, understood.
That's the first part. So the second part of your question, maybe if you could explain that a little bit better for me so I could understand that.
Well, you've already sort of clarified. You're looking for a numerical target as opposed to an outcomes focused target. And that numerical target could be CPI, could be whatever council decides. It could be wholly political. The council could just come every year and say, we want 0.
Sure.
Okay. But this is saying that'll be developed. I guess the other part of the question was, is this then tied to being part of the that budget, you call it a new budget policy? Is it possible, instead of having one that's, I'm trying to get away from the challenge for in our positions is to the pressure to do a political 0 budget is always there. But is there a possibility through this process in establishing a budget policy that the starting place is somewhere around CPI or something that is deemed to be reasonable? I guess this is for further down the road. I don't disagree with the target. I'm just trying to figure out how we do it so it's
I understand your concerns, Councillor Bulmer. If you think through the process, if we just arbitrarily choose we want 1.5 in a budget year, and then from things that are beyond our control, it gets out in the public that Puslinch headline. I see the headline: Puslinch aims for 1.5% tax increase, and then something happens and it ends up being at 3.5. It's going to cause us a lot of grief. So I have similar concerns about arbitrarily choosing a number, but this is at the stage of just comments, and we can always have that. Yeah, we can have that discussion early in the budget process. But I wouldn't want to make it something written in stone at this point. But we'll have staff report back. Councillor Sepoulis, did you? Yeah, it's just going to come to you.
Yes, usually when you set a target, you set a target, and there's always options to add or delete from the target. In other words, if something extraordinary comes up, we look at it and say, we got to add it in, type of thing. And sure, there's going to be headlines, but at the same time, there's a rational reason. Council ups the budget because of bang, 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 bang. And we're mindful enough that we're very conscientious of spending taxpayer dollars. We wouldn't up it arbitrarily, be something that's important.
Yeah, I just don't want to put staff in a position where they're cutting services to meet a number.
No, I don't think so. I think staff, know how to play this game.
All right,
Well, thank you,
anybody-
and do the work. I think I heard my earbud translated that to how to do the work, how to get the job done.
Mr. Schwindinger.
Sure, just in response to the question about service levels, that's why when we are going to be going through this process at the beginning of every budget, that's one of the first questions we ask is, do you want to increase, decrease any services, add new services, those types of things. So that plays right into it. So our assumption moving forward, if you said that, no, we don't want to decrease any services, then that isn't an option that we bring forward. That's why we asked that right from the get-go.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. And I don't recall reading it, and it may be in the report, but as for the budget process, I believe it was Councillor Ballmer, Councillor Spillis brought it up that the public input is always at the end of the process. And, it'd be nice to get that engagement earlier on in the process. So, we've had 4 or 5 meetings and hashing out a budget, and then all of a sudden the public wants something else. And it's just difficult to implement it at that point at the end. So it'd be nice to get some.
Sure. What we intend to do is using our online engagement platform is to go through a similar process to what we just did with you as council, and we're going through right now is post similar types of questions, and then we can compile the feedback that we get and provide that to you early in the budget process so that you know that's one of the things we'll be doing for sure.
Before we go on to the department, Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, I think just piggybacking on the target concern, for lack of a better word, but that was my big question is what would we base the target on? Because in my mind, you can't just kind of pick an arbitrary number. So I would want to know how would we pick that target and what would it be based on? And I like the idea of trying to keep it consistent, maybe year over year, but it would have to be based on something concrete. And I just wanted to comment, I really liked Councillor Goida's suggestion at maybe working with dollar amounts instead of percentages. Just for me, I can wrap my head around that a little bit more, and I didn't know whether there was any staff comments about that.
Sure, I can comment on that. Typically, what we try and do is both. We're moving to both. That'll be the short answer. But when you're looking at your budget versus actuals and the year to dates, if you have, if you overspent or underspent by say $500 in one account versus another, it's really relative. Was that a $200 account that you overspent by 500, or was it a $50,000 account that you overspent by 500, right? So that's why the percentages are important. But what we'll always try and do is when we get to the bottom line, so that when say council comes up with the bottom line shows a 2.5% budget increase, then we'll equate that to what a dollar value is to your average household, the average business, the average agriculture property, all those kinds of things. So people then can see what does that actually mean to them, right? Does that answer the question? Okay.
Further? Okay. So the next part of this report is the comments from the department heads. I spoke with the CAO yesterday. He's comfortable with receiving those comments. I don't know if there's any member of council here that requires any clarification, or if the CAO needs any clarification from council in regards to these comments. I don't want to go through each one of them. That's his job. Anything from council on that part? I'll give Councillor Ballmer a moment to scroll through.
Oh, what's that? I'm sorry, I missed my computer was moving through my thing. What would you say?
So Councillor Ballmer, the whole component of this report around the department head comments, I'm just going to, I've followed up with the CAO. He's comfortable receiving them, and I just wasn't going to review all of the department heads comments. I'm just asking council if you have any clarification, or if the CAO needed clarification from us. So if you want to scroll through your.
I have a couple. Do you want me to? We're going to go through like we did last time, question by question, or do you want me to go through wherever I have a question?
I think it would be better if we just went through all of your questions. Just I'll give you the floor, and then that way I think it'll
Okay.
be easier for you.
Thank you. Okay, the clerk, okay. Oh, okay, on question 5, the CAO's comments about tires seems to contradict his previous comment about tires, I think in a previous answer. Or did I read that wrong?
What was the other comment that I had that it is
That
conflicting?
we shouldn't spend so much time on tires, and then in question 5, you suggest it was reasonable to spend, you know,
No, sorry for not being clear. That what I'm trying to say is, if it's regular consumables, for example, tires, there's a lot of discussion last year about replacing tires. We need to have a process where that can just go through and happen, that it's budgeted accordingly. It's a safety issue, it's an operational issue that we need them. So we just need to modify the process slightly so consumables like that just move forward. Like, obviously, we're not going to go over expenditures on those, but it's not as if council's going to say, well, no, you're not going to spend money on tires this year, and then the trucks have to sit in the shop, right? We're not going to do that.
Understood. I was just, it just seemed that that's what I got from the first pass through.
Okay.
On second, when it came to question 5, it seemed to suggest something.
Okay,
different.
sorry for my lack of clarity there.
One time that Glenn wasn't clear on something. Sorry.
Oh no, I just want to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding, because I thought it was just a typo, but what if it wasn't? Okay. I think I have. So I have I think the fire chief made an interesting comment under question 6. And I think this is what I was thinking about with regards to the target, and that if we're not at least keeping up with the CPI, we're going to dig a hole, and that we're going to somebody in the future is going to have to fill. And I just wanted to clarify from the fire chief that that's how I should understand those comments that he made there, if he's available, because I just want to make sure I got that right. That's what he means there.
Council Bulmer, thank you very much for posing that question and asking for clarity on that. And that exactly is my intent. So I've struggled over the years with zero-based budget increase for our operating budget, because what it does is it allows us to always fall behind and not keep up with inflation in all of our budget categories. And then specifically, we would have to ask for increases on certain items in our operating budget, where I think if the department heads had a target increase, such as you guys are suggesting, which is great, then we can allocate those funds appropriately, because, you know, year over year, it's not the same budget category that needs to be increased. You know, one year it could be, you know, clothing and safety. The other year it's for the fire department, fire equipment, maybe pub ed materials and that sort of thing. So it's nice to have the ability to be flexible with allocating those funds. So I appreciate you guys looking into this process. So thank you.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, could I have one follow-up for the chief
Sure.
then? I heard you say the department heads would allocate those and reallocate them as necessary to different operating lines as they see fit. So essentially what you're asking for is for council to allow the department heads to be accountable for how they spend the money they're allocated. Basically, you're asking to be given that ability to be, instead of us telling you where to spend the money, you want to, which, does that make sense? Is that right?
Yes, that is a direction I would like to have from council in regards to utilizing the fire department funds for our operating budget. The majority of our budget is captured through payroll. So it's probably maybe 40% of our budget we allocate for other categories, and to have that flexibility, I think would be great. Obviously, we would have to, you know, answer to council and let them know where these funds are going. So let's say we were allocated 2% across the board. Maybe that year it's just we increase each of our budget categories by 2%. However, if we do notice that there's a need in one category versus another, then maybe we can allocate more funds into that one. But obviously, council would have final approval, but it allows us to play with this a little bit more. So anyway, I'm glad you guys are considering it. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It isn't often when I have someone asking to be made more accountable for their own actions. So thank you for that, Fire Chiefs.
You're welcome.
Before you go on, Councillor Bulmer, Mr. CEO has his hand up.
Sure, thank
Mr.
you.
CEO?
Yep. What we will do is, as part of the budget process, we'll speak to that, how the annual increase would be apportioned. Because yeah, the overall target obviously is department wide to have no bigger than the target increase, whatever that target might be. But there may be some items that have a larger increase because of, say, increase in fuel costs. But other items that we purchase on a different line item, maybe we haven't spent the full budget amount each year, so it doesn't make sense to increase that by CPI. So as we go through and do the initial preparation of the budget, the department head will be sitting down with the treasurer and myself, and we'll go through and we'll come through with the first iteration that we present to you as council, and we'll go through and look at previous year's expenditures and those types of things to make sure that it's appropriate.
I thought there was a process in place already, and one that rings a bell is the calcium in the public works budget. It was there was a significant cost increase, and and it didn't come through as a base budget increase. It's simply in the budget sheets, and it just shows that we need to increase that budget line, and it becomes reviewed by council. So I feel that we may already have the tools in place for that. It's just utilizing them more efficiently. So.
Yep, that's one of the steps we'll go through for sure.
Councillor Bulmer?
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the rest of council, we're still just on the comments from the department heads. Did you need any clarification or have any questions? Councillor Bailey?
Thank you. This was just a question regarding the clerk's comment for question 3. I've just written a note that wondering whether we could have sort of a regular work plan check-in on the agendas, and whether this would help us kind of just keep current with I guess some of the spending going on and where we are in the work plan. Is this something that's come up?
Mr. CEO or Ms. Whitefox?
I could start, and then Courtney, if you want to add in. The work plan is our kind of tracking of our daily operations type of thing. What we can do is provide, and what I've seen done in the past is provide like a mid-year or maybe even a quarterly update to council, that kind of thing. I don't know if there's a lot of value in doing it each council meeting, just because sometimes there's gonna, there may not appear to be some operational progression on certain things, but you do get the quarterly financial reports as well. So I think you're already getting that information. And then the update that we have, like we go through regularly in our leadership team meetings, if not every week, then usually every other week we go and we update the work plan. I know we haven't posted it in the shared drive in the last little bit. We're just changing some formatting around, and that's going to be posted there again shortly. So you guys would have access to that information to take a look at it. Then you could always pose questions if you want, but I'm not sure that there's value in putting it as part of the public council agenda, because it's more like operational progress type of stuff instead of policy related decisions. So that'd be my thought, but I'd like the council for your direction. Courtney, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, sorry. Ms. Whitefox?
My only add with my comment that I made in that section was just I really appreciate the corporate work plan and the way that it functions, because it gives us the ability to see what other departments are doing. So you get to hear updates from the other departments and kind of look at what their plan is for the year in the coming year. And so I think just relating that to how the budget cycle works with those regular types of updates from the leadership team, I just think is a really helpful tool that we could establish through this process, just to be more aware of what's going on with our other departments.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what my intention was just leaving a bit of a space holder so that we could all be informed on how things are progressing, and just, if there's nothing to report, that's fine, but it's just a little bit of a space holder where, just to get a little update. And then, based on that, there could be a few questions that come out of it. That's where my thinking was. I really like the work plan. I like seeing that updated. So I guess that's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bailey. Anything further? All right, so we'll move on to the next portion. I'm on page 14 of the agenda, and this is the looking forward portion. And we will do the first question. Are there any service levels you would like to see increased? We have 3 or 4 comments there. Councillor Spluss.
Can we back up to general comments? I think there's some information.
And this one?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Sorry, general comments? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I put a general comment with respect to having the service levels in one document. I think that's important to have right now. I'm only aware of 2 things being on the website. I'm not aware of any other service levels available anywhere.
Yeah,
Right,
one
yeah.
one thing, if I could add to that, sorry, is
Sure.
we intend on bringing a level of service policy forward to council. So that will document for council and the public, and then we can make that available on our website. Here's all the services we provide, and here's the extent that we provide them to and where we provide them, just so that it's clear and consistent for everybody. And then that's what we base all of our costing on for our operations and all that kind of stuff. So we do plan on bringing that forward to council.
Councillor Balmer, you have something?
Oh, just that I had written down that I agree with Councillor Goyda's comments on this. That was, and the CAOs, but that's all I had down.
Okay. So question 1 is we'll look at, are there any service levels you would like to see increase? And we had a few comments. I think Councillor Spluss, you wanted to speak to that as well?
No, I mentioned it previously. I'd like to see what the cost would be associated with snow plowing, increased tree maintenance, and that's something that could be put in the budget as here's what it costs to go to the service level and that service level. That's something we can decide.
Yeah, I'd want to just expand on, the fact I put in that more PW staff. We're going to have another soccer field coming online here shortly. I'm not being critical of our staff, but, I'd like to see a little bit more man hours put into the manicuring of our parks, and, try to, maybe they could do mulch around the trees, cut out the sod, make them just, beautify them a little more. But that could go hand in hand with Councillor Spluss's comment about, maybe more plowing, because it could be a shared employee going from, public works plowing in the winter to the parks in the summer, and then additionally maybe with some summer students. So again, I'm not being critical of staff, just bring it up another notch. I'm sure everyone's aware that weed eating is as time consuming as mowing, and we just don't seem to have the personnel to do both. Councillor Spluss.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Bowman's assessment of Councillor Goyda's statement. Good to have a public input into this as well. In other words, we can get the costs associated with all the service improvements, and that the public expectations are that they would like this. Well, there's a reason for a base budget increase type of thing.
And if they don't want them, right?
Yeah.
Works both ways, right?
Exactly, it works both ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think people want more snow plowing than less snow plowing, I'll tell you right now.
Okay. Any other comments on question 1 of the looking forward portion? Okay, on to question 2. Are there any service levels that you would like to see decreased? I don't think that one will have much discussion. All right. Question 3, are there any service levels you would like to see added? Well, we just spoke to that mostly. Any further comments on that? Number 4, are there any service levels you would like to see removed? Number 5, are there any potential legislative or policy direction or initiatives that may be coming that you are concerned about? Greenbelt. Okay. Still with us, Councillor Bulmer? Am I going too fast? Number 6?
No, perfect, yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any potential legislative policy directions or initiatives that you would like to see implemented?
I agree with Councillor Bailey's comments here. I kind of like where she's talking, how she's talking there.
All right. Number 7, are there any new projects you would like to see added for consideration? I like Councillor Bailey's. I don't know if I know how to play it, but. Okay. Number 8, are there any projects you would like to see considered for removal from past plans? I do have concerns about that park master plan blowing up the whole facility over there. We've been piecemealing it. We're doing a good job. We have the soccer field, but I don't feel we need to follow that plan verbatim. And
Yeah.
so I think staff should take that into consideration.
Yeah, and I think a good example of that, if I could, Mr. Chair, was the whole issue regarding Fox Run Park. You know, all that heartache and grief for the residents of Fox Run was created because the plan completely misunderstood how the residents used the park, and it just led to a lot of misunderstanding and grief that didn't need to happen, or we could have gotten to where we ended up in a much better process. So
I agree.
and then there was I seem to recall a resident from Morriston who was particularly
Upset.
excited and upset about the recreation master plan.
Did a lot of walking around in February.
Did
Very
a lot of
cool.
walking around, yeah. I think I even got threatened with a petition from that resident.
Who that guy is? Don't remember him.
I ignore,
Council, any? Sorry, I didn't hear it. You got to say it again.
I ignore residents like that.
I remember when you came to my door campaigning, you didn't spend much time there. I was talking to you, you just kept walking away. Good times. All right, sorry, get back on track here. So number 8,
Well,
Councillor Bailey.
I'm just going to stop my video. I think this, what Councillor Balmer's talking about ties into what Councillor Goyda said actually in question 7 in terms of the playground. So I do think the Parks Master Plan, is kind of dictating where and when the playground needs to be done, but I do think it needs to be revisited sooner than later. That's something actually I would like to put higher on my list.
Yeah, I agree with that. I recently spent some time at the Borum Park, as I was discussing with Councillor Goyda yesterday. And, the playground's in good shape. It looks nice. It's just antiquated, right? It's a little old, but it's in great shape. And you guys know me, I'm a parks guy. So I think it would be definitely worth council's consideration to, look at those parks and the structures on them. You want to speak to that, Councillor Goyda?
No, I mean, I agree with you, Mayor Sealy, that the parks and at the PCC too, they are in great shape. They're just dated. And I think, I can speak specifically to this slide at Borum Park. The kids, their bums stick right to the slide as they go down. And in the summertime, they heat up so hot that they can't go down the metal slide. So I think, if there is money sitting in some of the reserves that is budgeted for anyways to be used to update some of those, what's the harm in pushing those projects ahead?
I just brought a thought to my mind here, and I don't know if Ms. Hassan or our CEO can answer this. How does the process work if it's in the plan, but say a department head, even whether it's fire or public works, if they say, I want to put a park in there earlier because the stainless steel is a concern for kids, does that get passed on to council, or is it because the plan says it's not due to be replaced until 8 more years, it gets squashed and we don't have that for consideration? How does that work?
There will be recommendations that we'd have those discussions internally. And then what we would do is we see if that were to be implemented, how would we do it? And then we would bring forward that to council for your consideration. There would need to be some type of reasoning or justification, not just, oh, well, I think we should move it ahead. Like, we should move it ahead because it's a safety issue, or it's now worn out, or there's new standards, or something like that. There would need to be a reason for them to do that. And then if there's a good justification for it, we will provide a plan. We'll put together some options and bring it forward to council for their consideration to change it.
Okay. Councillor Bailey?
Well, I think a huge issue is accessibility. I mean, those parks are so outdated. They are not accessible for kids. A beautiful example is the one at Sunrise. I mean, their accessible playground at the back is fabulous. I mean, anyone can use it, and it just shows how outdated ours are. And I think that's a big reason to be moving the park along. Like, accessibility is a big concern.
Okay. Any further comments? No. All right, on to question 9. Are there any new programs you would like to see considered? And there's some comments here. Anything you want to add? Number 10. What would the overall big, oh, sorry.
If I could just maybe ask a question. If that's something, so basically if you're saying, yeah, you want to see some additional information, what the types of programming that's discussed in Councillor Goyda's examples there for reference to that, we would just put together some examples that other municipalities do in that and say, it would be in the range of approximately this. Is that the type of information you're looking for?
Yeah, I guess I really have no idea to run any program, regardless of what it is, whether it's a fitness class or just a personal interest class. What does that entail in terms, not just cost, but resources, staffing, time? Maybe it means that we're losing out on potential revenues of a rental of something. But I have literally no idea of just offering a course or a class or an interest. What does that really mean? And does it actually add any value? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's even an interest for it. So perhaps that would be something that would come again from the public input on the Engage Plus Lunch page. But it's just something for us to look at.
Sure. Okay. That gives me a bit of an understanding. Not that it's, we'd like to run a specific program covering topic X. It's just, if we were run programs, how would we do it? What are different ways of doing it? Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even like, how would someone go about registering? And does that entail a whole other system that we have to implement just for someone to be able to register for something?
Yep. Yeah. We can put some thoughts together on that.
Can I speak to this a bit, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting point that Councillor Goyda made on the, and I guess I looked at it just a little bit differently in terms of not how can we provide the program, but what is it we can do about our fee structures or the information on our website that makes it easier for someone that wants to run a program, make it easy for them to do that and make it beneficial for them to do that. I look at how the Bowden Community Center managed this over the years, where they made it possible for someone who wanted to run a program. They had a Pilates thing there for years, and the person who ran it not only then was able to pay rent, but they were able to do it in a way that they got compensated for their time as well. So that there's a recognition that when someone's running a program, both the municipality and the one who's organizing the program needs to be a benefit for them as well. And do we have to run everything, or can we just create the conditions for other people to benefit from running it on the community's behalf? And if we could include options like that when we're thinking about these things, it might make it easier to make these things happen rather than having to wait for us to hire somebody. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
that would definitely be the approach that we would recommend with a municipality of our scale. Is we simply don't have the staff and we don't have the resources to hire the
Yeah.
staff for, if you build it, they will come, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
It's to, facilitate making the space available so that others who have more expertise on that area and that topic than we do, so that they have the place to do it comfortably and safely and that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, that would likely be how we would go about making recommendations anyway. So yeah.
Super. Thank you.
I guess a lot of that would be around the fee structure and whether or not we allow private rentals. I mean, we've bounced around with the rink, well, whether it should be rented or not. I remember you used to be able to rent the basketball court and the rink at the same time. So you could have your birthday party inside and go for a skate. And I think we got away from that. So, it might be part of a larger conversation, but I like the direction to facilitate more use of our facilities as best we can. Any further comments? We were on number 9, correct? So now we're on number 10. I've lost my page. Does anybody remember
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. What would the overall big picture direction to staff be that you would like considered? Your comments there. Sure. To add. Okay. Number 11, in one sentence. Matthew, you missed that part on this one.
Yes, I will acknowledge I somehow got garbled in one sentence. I failed that.
One sentence. What would you, I can't even read it. What would you like the theme of the next budget to be? There's some lengthy comments from one individual. Anything further you want to add, Matthew?
I will try to be concise.
All good. Okay. All right.
I like the first word, engagement.
Thank you, John. And this is something I was thrilled to see that the clerk picked up on that as well. She coached me on this, but I didn't take all of her advice, but I went on beyond her one word.
Okay, now we'll move on to the next part of the report, which is page 19 of the agenda, and it's the looking forward as the department heads. Glenn's reviewed it. It's here for your information. If you need any clarification on any of this, I don't want to go through each of their comments, but Councillor Balmer, do you have anything you need clarification on for this one?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, I'm not seeing anything. All right, well, I think we're into the resolution. Now, this one might be a little tricky. Glenn, do you have a recommendation on how to just as the resolution is presented here, or because you have a blank there?
Yeah, well, this is a interesting result. I'll put it that way. Typically, when we go through this, council doesn't necessarily have the consensus that you have had working through this. So that was great to see. So what we would do then is the resolution would have picked through and said, okay, like question 9 comments, A, B, C. But there weren't any here that you said no as a group of council. Now that we've discussed it, we're not interested in any of this. So what I think the simple resolution then would be that the comments provided be incorporated as the direction to staff. Because you're telling us to consider and take all that into mind as we bring stuff forward. So that's an easy resolution then.
Yeah, and I'd also politely request that, this is recorded, so staff, they can always review the comments we've made, so then it can be pretty clear.
For sure, yep.
Any other comments before I ask the resolution, Councillor Guida?
Yeah, maybe a question to staff is, there's a lot of information that we've just gone through. Is this manageable, or would you have preferred that we did take some things out to make this a more achievable process?
It does look like a whole lot of information, but I'll go through this and kind of create a to-do list, and then it'll be designed per department. And some of the stuff, a lot of it was just comment, supporting where you like the process here, and this was helpful, or you'd like to see more of this. So we can refine that down. So no, I don't think that this is too much for us to manage. It will, the list will get smaller as we go year by year, right? Because we're just initiating the process now. So it'll be a bit of a curve at the beginning, but then I think it'll become quite more manageable as we go through. But no, I don't think anything in here is way too cumbersome, at least now that we know the clarification of what you want for programming. Not that we come back and say, okay, well, to run a yoga class, it's this, and to run a karate class, it's this, and all that. So just general concept type stuff. I think we're in good shape.
Okay, great.
Okay. I posed the same question yesterday too, and Councillor Goyda, I thought, holy cow, this is a lot of info, but you seem pretty confident on it. So Glenn likes to work. Any other comments from council before I have Ms. White Fox read the resolution?
Well, if I could, I saw significant overlap in, in direction, and the differences are important, but not ones we can't overcome or we aren't comfortable working through together. So I think I was really pleased to see the overall, how many times our comments interlinked, I guess, like a Venn diagram, and was quite comfortable where they didn't. I felt that was, staff already had a pretty good idea of where those differences were, and I think it's a sign of a council that's working well through issues that of all different types here. So I think I'm glad we've left some, I don't know, slight differences in there, because we're not a unit, we're not just one, it's not groupthink. So I think it's good.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Councillor Balmer. I have my concerns around setting the tax rate increase, but I'm so comfortable with this council that, we can work through things that I don't feel that I have to be worried about it. We'll figure it out one way or another, and it's just a testament to everybody around this horseshoe and staff as well. So it's nice to work with this team.
I would agree. I've been through this process a number of times, and sometimes you'll see diametrically opposed opinions on service levels. We should do this, or we should add this facility, or no, we shouldn't. And then it becomes a question for us as staff. Well, what do you want, right? So it's good that all of you are on a very similar page. So that this is a good thing.
Well, at this high level, wait till we get down to the details, Mr. CAO.
Positive thinking.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. White Fox, do you have a resolution for us to consider, please?
That report ADM 2021-043 entitled 2021 Budget Review and Looking Forward to 2022 be received, and that staff be directed to prepare the budget considering the comments provided, and that staff bring forward a budget development and control policy at the September 22nd, 2021 Council Capital Budget Meeting.
Perfect. Can I get a mover for that?
I'll move.
Thank you, Councillor Balmer, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. Any comments? Councillor Balmer, in favor?
In favor?
Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos?
In favor.
And Councillor Bailey?
In favor.
In favor, that's carried. Awesome. So now we go on to our next, where'd my bookmarks go? Hold on a second here. Lost my bookmarks. We're going to deal with the fire station, but I'm having trouble with my second device here.
I'd just add here, maybe as people are flipping through to the next page, all the department heads, they're welcome to stick around for the discussion if they want, but if it doesn't pertain directly to them, I know they've got other things on the go too. If they wanted to leave the meeting, that's absolutely fine as well.
Bye, Mike. Is he still here? Is he left already? No, he's going to bail.
Adios.
Hey, council, did I tell you that there was somebody living in our trash can at Meadows illegally?
What?
Oh,
I went for a meeting with somebody at the pavilion to do it outside and do social distancing. And I walked by the garbage can that moved. I'm like, what the heck?
What?
There was 2 baby raccoons stuck in it. Not on me. So I tipped it over and they ended up wandering away. First, I called Mike because I was scared to do anything about it. I was going to get him to come up. Anyways, we'll get back on track here. Okay, Glenn, how do you want to approach this? Are we just going to have a round table, or is the chief going to present this or yourself? How do
I was going to speak to it, and maybe Louis could speak to any particular questions that you might have. But again, the intent for this one is not to make any particular final decisions or anything like that. There is a large capital project that was under consideration, and for council to make that decision, you're going to need more information so that you can make an informed decision. What we did was we put together this report with a long list of information that we're suggesting is important for you to know. We're not saying that we want you to decide on any of those features. It's just if we bring this information to you, this is the type of information we're going to be giving you. And we're just seeing, is there any additional information or additional things that you would like that you think would be helpful for that as well? So not pro or against or anything, it's just, but for you to make the decision, what information do you feel that they need?
Okay, I'll start with Councillor Bomer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. CAO and the fire chief for putting this together. And I expect you had support from the Director of Finance as well in putting this report together. I guess if we deal the two lists of items separately, the only thing I could see missing maybe from the first list was making available the fire master plan for those that weren't here when it was done. Of all the master plans that were done, it was, I would have to say, probably the most thorough or detailed, or it actually came up with some interesting recommendations. And I can remember in the one thing that really stuck with me was in one of the presentations from the consultant. We're in the fire hall, and to put the whole thing into context, it was, as they indicated, that the city of Guelph could have a fire truck rolling past our fire hall before our guys could get to the hall to even get a truck, which really set us all back on our heels to understand the service level we're able to provide and help put it in some context of what the whole thing was about. So I think that would be helpful in terms of when we do eventually just go through a process of making decisions, making sure that every member of council has had a chance to update themselves in the fire master plan that was done. So that's all I could say about the first list. The second list, I think, is very interesting because it deals, more with whether we need it or not, or all those other questions. When I think of the existing fire hall, it's located roughly halfway between the Downey and the Puslinch-Nassagaweya town line on the east. So essentially everything west of the Downey is farther away than any part of the east side of the township. So there is an imbalance of sorts there of some type. So there certainly something needs to be done. But I like the questions that are there. I think it puts it it'll provide the appropriate information. I just want to clarify, I think the number one on the list was the bylaw, is that what it was? What's the word called?
The establishing and regulating bylaw.
That's
essentially
right.
What that is the level of service policy for the fire department. That's basically what it is. So I think
Okay,
that would
great.
be one of the initial steps is let's take a look at that, confirm that you're happy with that, and then we will then look at what the resources are to achieve that. And it may very well be quite close to what we've got now, and the chief can speak to that far better than I can. But I think that's first. Let's look at the level of level of service, so the regulating bylaw, and then we'll adjust operations to suit that instead of the other way around.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's the only piece I didn't get out of reading the report. That first step was what is the current service level and what is our expectation of future service levels, whether it's status quo, change nothing, improve everywhere, rebalance, whatever we come up with. Then that's the first step everything can flow from. So thank you very much. And I have no issues with what's suggested there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bomer. Councillor Guida.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to say I'm really glad we're doing this exercise. I think it's a really important discussion, and there's enough information for sure to warrant having a special council meeting on this topic alone. And I guess very similar to what Councillor Balmer has just mentioned just now. I guess when I read through these list of questions, both the general questions and the specific questions, they're all really great questions, and they all sort of need to be investigated. They'd all be on my list of things I would want to know to make an informed decision. But I guess for me, the one thing that I keep thinking is, based on what the answer is to some of these questions, I would likely then have a whole new list of questions. And I'm, you know, how far do we go in terms of pulling together all the information? And just as an example, if you look at, you know, the last question where it says, are there options of reconfiguring services in Puslinch with other municipalities? Depending on what the answer is to that question, I would want to know what would that area cover? What would the cost of that be? How would we pay for that? What would the new response times be? There'd be lots of new questions that would come, and it's kind of just like becomes a bit of a rabbit hole. And so with each one of these questions, the potential for that to happen is all these little rabbit holes with endless things to consider. So for me, I guess I just want to clarify, there's a lot of information and it's very complex. So to just have staff work on all of these things to sort of try and give us one great big picture, is that feasible? And I'm wondering if it makes more sense to kind of break the information apart into sections, you know, starting with exactly what you just talked about. What are the current service levels and are they still appropriate? So, you know, the problem we're trying to solve is response times. So what are the current response times? What is the appropriate response time? And, you know, how does building a satellite station affect those response times throughout the township? And if the answer to those questions is that a satellite station would help all those things, then we start going down more of these rabbit holes. But if the answer is no, then we need to find new rabbit holes. And I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it seems very complex and a lot of work to go through, pulling out all the details and all the answers to all of these questions, when really the overall picture is we don't know if it even makes sense to begin with. Does that make sense?
Mr. CEO?
Sure. I understand exactly what you're saying, Councillor Goyda, and I agree with you. That's why we kind of have it set up in the order that we have, is that the first thing is to establish it from the big picture, right? And you know, that's with the establish and regulating bylaw, looking at the response times and looking at those types of things. And then if it does seem like the satellite station is a potential feasible option, then we would start going into those details and bring those to you. And then you're exactly right. Then when you start doing that, then you're going to have more questions, and that's completely understandable. Like this, by no means do I anticipate this being a one meeting decision. This could be multiple meetings. So you get there until you get some more information, and then it'll raise more questions, and then you go from there. The whole idea with the what I'm trying to get at is there's the concept of an additional, like a satellite station. And how much does it cost? Well, how much does it cost compared to what? And there's different ideas of what a satellite station might encompass. So that's what we would then further define. Here's what the station may or may not include, right? So it could be, there's a wide range of what a station could be. So we have to kind of narrow the scope so that the cost that's put together to build and operate it is something that's truly reflective and applicable as to what might be implemented, because there's a wide range, right? So we have to kind of narrow the scope. But I'm just giving you that list as that's the type of information we're going to have to get into at least some initial detail.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. I wasn't sure if by saying, yes, this is the list of questions we want you to investigate, it doesn't necessarily mean we need you to do all of that in order to have another discussion. It
Right.
needs to be kind of like a work in progress, starting,
Yep. And
overall broadly, and then working down towards the details of all of these specific things.
So the first thing will be basically establish this level of service, through the regulating bylaw and review that, and maybe it's fine. And if it is, then that's good, but that just needs to be looked at and confirmed. And then we'll look at, so then how do we achieve, what are the different ways of achieving what's in there?
Yeah, okay.
And then when you're looking at the option of a fire hall, a satellite fire hall, it's kind of like the decision of, okay, we're going to buy another car for a family. Okay, well, what kind of car and how big and what's it all going to do and how many people are going to use it and all those kinds of things. Like there's a wide range of cars you could buy, just like there's a wide range of stations you could build. So
Yeah.
then we have to kind of narrow the scope, and to narrow the scope, you'd use those questions.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Chief, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I think the insight there from Councillor Goida was pretty amazing, and for me, it's spot on. Like, it holds so true. Once we start answering these questions, we are going to have a lot more questions that come up. There's a lot of variables for sure. Thank you, Glenn, for preparing all these questions and setting us on a course that I think makes a lot of sense. So this is high level, big picture stuff that we're looking at in regards to our service levels with our department. It was 2 years ago when council actually reviewed some changes to our establishing and regulating bylaw for the fire department. And it's good to review these bylaws quite frequently. So it's good that we're going to look at it again. And we do have to make some slight changes to it. But in there, we did make reference to NFPA 1720, which talks about response times for rural departments, which we fell under that category. So, that can guide us in regards to what we're looking at to make sure that we're on track with what's recommended there on a national basis, which is good. And then one of the appendixes that we have in that bylaw talks about our core services as well, and they're listed very specifically. And that's a good thing. We're able to attain those right now, which is good. And as Councillor alluded to, I think response times is crucial for us. Where we're going to run into problems looking at some of that data, and sorry, I'm getting a little specific, is we aren't responding right now to the southwest end. That's covered by the Cambridge contract. So determining those might be a little difficult. We might have to look at some historical data because we did do a trial where we ran a temporary fire station out by Puslins Lake, right by the restaurant. So we might have to go back at a few years and look at how that assisted with response times. But I'll get all the data that we can for you for our next meeting. Also, what I think has really changed since our master fire plan is at the time when that was developed, we had the residents of the Puslins Lake area that's serviced by the Cambridge contract, paying for that service, where now the township is assuming a lot of, the cost commitment for that contract. So definitely that changes our perspective from a financial standpoint. So anyway, a lot of things to consider. This is going to be a fun process. I think it's going to be a long process, but it's very important that we make the right decision because it's going to impact us for many, many years to come. So anyway, thank you very much for asking.
Okay. Councillor Spillis?
Yeah, just help Councillor Goida out. The fire master plan does provide a lot of information that you are looking for, like what does the current Cambridge contract cover? What are the times for response times type of thing, how many trucks usually go to fire, all that sort of stuff. So that'll be a good background information for you to have a look at. With respect to my comments, I look at this and saying the justification for a satellite station in my mind is to not pay Cambridge the extra cost. In other words, we're paying $127,000 a year and it's going to escalate every year. And to me, I would like to see a cost estimate to see a satellite station versus ongoing maintenance costs. Like if a satellite station is going to be less expensive than these, say, 10 years out of operating costs, then I would suggest that that might be a way out. With respect to sharing with other municipalities, well, you got North Dumfries next door and Guelph and Hermosa as well. Would they be willing to do anything? I know we asked that once, and passage of time, we can ask that again. And the other thing is, Councilor Boomer alluded to this, whether or not our existing stations should be relocated more centrally, more to be west side of the Hanlon. I think that's what you're alluding to, Councilor Boomer. And that might be something that we may want to look at is in the industrial lands on the west side of the Hanlon. We're going to have the road from going up to the future Morrison bypass going right through there. And that might be an opportunity to look at relocating a fire station. That will kill two things. It'll make the fire station more centralized. At the same time, I know with all the staffing we got, the head office is screaming for staff. All of the fire department moves out. Then guess what? They've got room to expand as well. The last thing I was thinking about is, I don't know if it's feasible, is full-time firefighters. In other words, if we had full-time firefighters, our response time will be significantly down. I don't know what the cost is. Our mayor is a firefighter, and I don't know how many staff would be required and what the cost would be. Just to have a quick rule of thumb, is that makes sense or not? Just rule that out. If that makes sense, let's pursue it. If it doesn't make sense, let's not worry about it. So those are the 3 points of investigation I would suggest.
Thank you, Councilor Spose. Councilor Bailey.
Wow. Following that, I don't have too much new to add. I love how we're thinking outside. Like the questions here are already quite encompassing. I think that's, lots of good questions to ask. My one question, it just ties into what's already been said, but wondering about the value of finding out what other neighboring municipalities' needs are. Like I'm picturing Freelton, for example, right? There's not much there. I didn't know, heading south, North Dumfries area, if there's generally any jurisdictional sharing beyond what we're already doing with Cambridge. But no, I look forward to the answer, looking into some of these questions for sure and getting this conversation going.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bailey. I feel council has covered it well. I would maybe suggest, we discussed service level increases and going to the public and getting input, maybe on the fire service levels, that would be a component of it as well. I think some of these, there is a plethora of questions here, but some might be answered quickly. I mean, if the CAO calls Cambridge and asks if they're willing to entertain expanding their coverage area and they say no, well, that sets us down a path that we're going to maybe look closer at the satellite station. So there's a lot going on here. I'm pretty confident the CAO's got a roadmap in his mind already on how to approach this. It is lengthy, but I'm comfortable with all the questions here. I can't think of anything that would need to be added. Mr. CAO, just to come back to you, you are comfortable with this report as provided, and you don't need any further direction from council? Any clarification on any items?
I think I heard a couple of things that people wanted added. Relocation of the station or the full-time or things like that. So I think that's what we would just fill in the blank here. If there were, I think there were 2 or 3. I didn't get to jot them down. So maybe if they could just repeat
Yes.
those and the clerk could throw those in the resolution.
So yeah, one was Councillor Spoulos and Councillor Bummer were discussing it, a centralized fire station, and that would free up space for the admin center for public works and for admin. Councillor Spoulos was looking for costing associated with a full-time department. I'd also maybe, if you have an appetite for it, is try to see if you did go to a full-time department, if there'd be insurance savings to our residents. I don't know if there's a way to query the insurance industry or not. I could probably help with that as well. Maybe try to find some contacts. I believe one of our firefighters at Puslinch works in the insurance industry. Does he not, Chief Gomes?
That's correct, Mayor Sealy, so I can reach out to him and ask him.
That'd be great.
If I could, Mr. Chair, just to the points that you're having jotted down there for the CAO, for the clerk.
Mhm.
Yeah, just if I could speak to a couple of points, I thank you, Councillor Sapoulis, for picking up on, I thought it would be part of our service level discussions as to where we rebalancing, recentering versus enhanced service. So thank you for picking up on that subtlety there. Because, the township is roughly 46 lots wide. And, I'm sure we all know where lot 23 is, because we know where side road 20 is. And I
I
think
live with her.
lives on side road on lot 20. So anyway, the just and on the chief did mention things that had changed since the fire master plan. And one of those, I'm so glad that the staff did put in this report, was the impact of the mid-block interchange and how that affects things, which Councillor Sapoulis spoke to. But also Councillor Spoulos talked about full-time, and I just want to make sure if we're going to put these things in resolutions, that there's, I think the fire master plan spoke about both full-time and hybrid full-time. I think so either Fergus or Laura has a hybrid system where it's X number of full-times, the station is manned X number of hours a day, and the rest of the force comes in as needed. So if Councillor Spoulis would be comfortable looking at that hybrid model as well, I think that'd be another piece to consider.
That's a good point, Councillor Boomer. I agree with your assessment.
Because I believe that was discussed through the fire master plan, how it would also improve response times by getting us people on scene, which also would then trigger mutual aid earlier as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bulmer. Any further questions, Councillor Goida? So, sorry, I was just going to ask the CEO if he had jotted down the additional items, if he had captured them, or Ms. White Fox.
I believe so. Ms. White Fox, did you get them as well?
Let me just give us a quick summary of what you captured.
I only have two, and so I think I'm missing a third point, but I have the potential to relocate a centralized fire station, and then costing associated with a full-time and a hybrid full-time fire department, and if there would be potential insurance savings.
Councillor Spoulos.
Now, the other was a comparison of the capital cost versus the ongoing operating cost for a satellite station. In other words, we're paying 127,000, it's going to escalate every year, and over 10 years, does it make sense to consider a satellite station or not? To my mind, that's the only reason I'd be looking at a satellite station, is try to reduce that cost to us.
Right. And to consider whether, if I could, Mr. Chair, a comparison of right now, that would be just that coverage area. But if that coverage area to be expanded, that'd be an additional cost to compare to a fire hall as well. If that was, made along more of the west side, because right now it's only the south of the 401.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's an excellent comparison.
Dr. Ms. White Fox.
And then,
Yes, thank you. I have that last third point.
and the one I'd asked to have added for the first set of questions, or first set of information, was, as Councillor Sapoulis alluded to as well, the existing fire master plan has a lot of this information that I think it'd be important for council members to read as background, so they understand or puts into context any information we get going forward, in future reports.
Do we have that as a PDF? Fire master
Yes.
plan?
Yes, we do.
We can just share that. Councilor Spos?
I believe it's on the website as well.
We'll have staff circulate it to council, just it's fresh. Okay, Councilor Goyda, Councilor Bailey, do you have anything you wanted to add to these questions? And
Right, actually, just thinking one last piece of information that is perhaps important is the existing agreement that we have with Cambridge. How long realistically can we continue that agreement? Is that, what would they be willing to carry that on indefinitely, or is there any kind of desire for them to end that agreement? And I guess that would come into play as to how quickly we need to sort this out.
Very much so, yes, and that's part of the whole component is looking at that, but then the other options around other areas on our other borders as well, just look at all potential options, right?
I posed that question recently, Councilor Goyda, to the CEO, because it was just a one-year contract and it made me nervous that they could pull the chute at any point. But I believe that was our request at the time, Mr. Schwendiger, because we were going to go through this process.
That's
So maybe
correct. Yeah.
maybe that's something council should consider, as well as maybe getting into a two-year or 3 year, depending on how long this process is going to take. See if Cambridge would entertain that. And sure, go ahead, Mr. CEO.
Yeah, exactly. I'd suggest the same thing.
I keep hearing a lot about these response times, and it just dawned on me that I hope we're not just going to focus on response times to the lake. We're going to look at response times holistically, because Arkle is probably just as far away and troublesome as Pilson's Lake. So,
No, it's not.
wow.
Everything west of the Downey is farther away than Arkle.
Sorry.
Everything west of the Downey is farther away than Arkle.
Sorry, maybe it takes longer to get there because of congestion is how I should have worded it. But
Oh, congestion. But I mean, to be fair, it's so yeah.
thank you.
Laird
for
and
pointing
32
out-
is a lot farther away than Arkle.
Thank you for pointing out my error, Councilor Plummer.
No, it's okay. It just
It's all
so
good. Okay. Ms. Hoyfox, so you have.
I'm a Westie. I grew up on the west side.
Didn't even know there was a west side until I married somebody over there.
Yes, it's true.
I didn't know anybody over there.
West is best.
Ms. Hoyfox, did you?
Yes, that report ADM 2021-044 entitled Fire Services Looking Forward be received for information, and that staff be directed to bring forward the items listed in the staff report along with the following information for council's review and consideration. That the existing fire master plan be considered as part of the review, and that the potential to relocate a centralized fire station be considered, and the costing associated with a full-time and a hybrid full-time fire department, and if there would be insurance savings, and a comparison of the capital to the ongoing operational costs be provided for a potential satellite station.
Get a mover for that, please. Councilor Spillis, seconder. Somebody, Councilor Goyda. And before I go any further, I want to ask Chief Gomes, is there any, fire service that we haven't considered or you feel that we should have staff look into? Is there a model that we maybe are not aware of, that you are aware of, that we should consider?
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for that question. I'll do some research. None come to mind. However, Councillor Supalis's idea of what's called as a composite fire department is interesting for sure. So we'll let council decide on their service levels and if that's a direction we should go. We're also very unique here within the township, because of all the commuters, the 401 going through our township. The fact that we have very good services provided when it comes to tiered response. So we're lucky with Waterloo Region being close by and Guelph Wellington EMS services that their response is really, really quick for us. And they're, they've got full-time paramedic staff, which really, really helps. So that's kind of interesting. Same with the police services here. They're awfully quick when they do respond. which is good. And then we're lucky to have, full-time departments as neighbors, which might be able to assist, in providing those service levels and service delivery to the township. I'm just a little bit leery when it comes to reliance on those services, though. Just because they're contracting out those services to us now doesn't mean that they're going to do it in the future. So there's so much to consider, and we are unique, and I'll bring as much information as I can to assist with your decision. So thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Ms. Hassan?
Yes, sorry, I just have one question about the resolution that's been drafted. So just, I heard from Councillor Sapoulis that it's a comparison of operating costs for the current Cambridge Fire contract, but I didn't hear about operating costs for the satellite fire station. Is it both capital and operating costs? Like, is that?
Exactly. It's an apples to apples comparison. In other words, on one hand, we got the operating costs. On the other hand, you're going to have capital plus operating.
Okay. So Ms. Hoyt-Fox, is the resolution worded properly in terms of that?
That'll be a component of the whole analysis we're going to do anyways, because you've got to work both factors in so that you know what the total cost is going to be.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm confident that that's fine.
Yeah, and if I could, also that the comparator isn't just to the existing Cambridge area, because a satellite station would enhance, it has to be to compared to what the cost to otherwise provide that enhanced service to the entire west side. Where if a satellite station enhances the response times to the entire west side, you have to compare that to the cost to do the same thing with the service agreement, not just to compare it to the do nothing. Right?
You lost me on that last
Well-
part. So
You can't just compare the satellite service station if it's located on the west side, it'll enhance response times. It'll shorten response times to the entire west side of the township. So let's say all the way up and down 32.
hang on a second, I'll get you.
So then,
Yeah, but the part I didn't understand is that you're saying that because we're enhancing response times to the west side of the satellite station, we'd have to compare that to the costs
of
that Cambridge would
expanding
charge us to supply more service. Is that what you're
to
trying
achieve
to
the
say?
same thing. Yes, to achieve the same thing, we have to compare it to the cost of having Cambridge do the same thing.
I would still say with a satellite station that'd be a tough comparison because Cambridge is still going to respond faster, even because you still have that travel time of volunteers. So I hope staff, Mary, I hope you understand what Councillor Bulmer is trying to allude to, but I'll go to Councillor Willis and I'll come back to you.
Councillor Bowman, that could be a subset of the comparison.
Yes.
Okay, because
Yes.
the base case is what we're paying now, and
Yes.
that's what we're going. And then we can argue the next bit saying, okay, incrementally to do a proper comparison, you're adding this area, which would be served by the satellite station. Therefore, there's a cost associated with that. To me, it's the base case is what we look at, and then if you want to further analyze it out, then you look into what you're suggesting.
That's right, because then it's an apples to apples as opposed to,
It depends what you term apples to apples. Like, I'm looking at existing situation, and I understand what you're saying. So, yes, you're right. It's sort of a hybrid. You have to look. You can't ignore one without the other, and the other without the one.
Yep. Thank you.
Ms. Hassan?
Yes, thank you.
I just saw your hand up. So,
Oh, sorry.
Chief Goins, I may be stepping on some toes here, but I feel that Ms. Hassan should maybe liaise with you because I'm not familiar any longer with what like our response criteria are for, say, a medical call down to the lake. And so her to come up with costing for capital and operating, she'll need to know whether this is going to be a 1-truck station that she's going to cost it against or a 2-truck station. Then that would be tied into what our response criteria is. And then it would be also tied into how many staff would be there. And then it's bottles, it's SCBAs, it's equipment. This gets pretty ugly pretty quick. But I don't know, I'm just kind of asking you to provide a little bit of, maybe give her a bit of a foundation on what you feel a satellite station would be manned and staffed and equipped with, so she could try to cost that as close as possible for council's discussion.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Yep, those are a lot of details we'll take into consideration. And we actually do have a proposal, or it was a project that was developed by GM Blue Plan, and that answers a lot of questions. And that was just done maybe about 1.5 years ago, 2 at the longest. So it was a direction from council to seek assistance from an outside consultant to answer a lot of those questions. So we already have a lot of that data, and we'll bring that forward, and hopefully it's still pertinent.
It'll be close, I would assume. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've read the resolution. I think we just need a vote unless anybody else has any more comments or questions on it. Councillor Bailey?
Sorry, I just have one question that came up. I think Chief Gomes mentioned EMS, and I'm just curious, this is not, maybe this is just a bigger picture thing, but where, or is there a potential to ever combine with ambulance services? And is there a need for that somewhere in the area that, you know, are they also looking to be establishing something, and could there be a partnership going on there? I don't know if that's been looked at.
So Councillor Bailey, that's a really good question as well. So when we were gathering data for the satellite, potential satellite station over by Puslynch Lake, I did approach Guelph Wellington EMS in regards to them utilizing the facility in combination with the Puslynch Fire Department. And at that time, it was Chief Stephen Dewar with Guelph Wellington EMS stated that it wasn't one of their projected places for a station for them. But once we got closer to making a decision, then to reach out to them again. However, that being said, if we do look at, you know, maybe a centralized station, which was one of the options that was suggested, I could see them entertaining that as a more favorable option for them. And definitely they would be part of the discussions in regards to, you know, renting space out of a new fire hall once we make that decision to move in that direction if we do so. But great question, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna have Ms. White Fox read that resolution again for us, please. Just a lot of discussions, but
Report ADM 2021-044 entitled Fire Services Looking Forward. Report be received for information, and that staff be directed to forward the items listed in this staff report along with the following information for council's review and consideration. That the existing fire master plan be considered as part of the review, and that the potential to relocate a centralized fire station be considered, and that the costing associated with a full-time and hybrid full-time fire department be considered, and if there would be any insurance savings, and that a comparison of the capital costs to the ongoing operational costs be provided for a potential satellite station, and that it further be compared to the cost of an ongoing service agreement with the city of Cambridge.
the only thing, and this might be nitpicky, is the cost comparison is capital and operating. Correct,
Right.
Councillor Spillis?
Correct. I think our CEO indicated that he would do that as a matter.
I just didn't know if it needed to be in there. Okay, I'll give a mover for that, please.
Yeah, I'll move.
Okay, Councillor Ballmer, and seconded by Councillor Spillis. Comment, Councillor Ballmer?
Just like to change the word hybrid to composite as was corrected by the fire chief.
Composite, did you say? Sorry, Councillor Ballmer?
I believe so. I think that word was composite,
Yeah, it is.
proper term. Thank you, Mr. Chief.
So in favor, Mr. Ballmer?
Yes, in favor. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Goida?
Favor.
Okay, Councillor Spillis?
In favor.
Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
I'm in favor, that's carried. Uh-oh, where'd my agenda go? All right, well, I believe that's it until, sorry, not that that's it. We have the closed session, but thank you, staff, for attending. Sounds like there's lots of work to be done in the near future. Enjoy. I'll have Ms. White Fox.
Great. Can I suggest maybe we take just a 5-minute break? Just got to get another glass of water here. You don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me go into close first and everybody take 5 minutes to come back, please. Don't mind, before everybody takes off. Ms. White Fox, can you read the resolution going to close, please?
Yes, certainly. The council shall go into closed session under section 239 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of a confidential verbal report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being a township policy.
Okay, I'm gonna move for that, please. Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey, all in favor. Councillor Balmer,
In favor?
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
All right, we're in. Excellent. Ms. White Fox, do you have a resolution?
That council moves into open session at 2:23 p.m.
You gonna move for that, please?
I move.
Councillor Spillis, seconder.
Second.
Goida, all in favor. Councillor Balmer,
In favor?
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
Favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
That's carried. And I believe we have a confirmatory bylaw, Ms. White Fox.
Just before we move to that, Mayor Sealy, just the resolution to receive the closed item.
Sorry.
Okay. That council receives the confidential verbal report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, being a township policy, and that staff proceed as directed.
Okay, you gonna move for that, please?
Move.
Councillor Spillis, seconded by Councillor Bailey. All in favor. Councillor
In
Balmer,
favor? Yep.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor.
and Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
That's carried. And the last one, Ms. White Fox.
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2021-037 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the Corporation of the Township of Plisslanch at its meeting held on the 29th day of June 2021.
Can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure, I'll move.
Councillor Goida, seconded by Councillor Spillis. All in favor. Councillor Balmer,
Favor?
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor.
Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
and that's carried. Before anybody logs off, I just want to give you a heads up on something that occurred. We were on a county call, and I think we were on a break, and there was some banter amongst the councilors. And there's a certain mayor, not this one, that used some colorful language in describing attainable housing and the situation as a whole. And there was still a reporter on the call. So I just a friendly reminder that once we're all on this Zoom call, that the public could come and go at any time. So I believe it's going to be hitting the paper soon. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it could have been a lot worse, that's for sure. Anyways, everybody enjoy the rest of their day.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, if we could just do the last adjournment.
Oh, sorry, I thought we did that.
No, sorry. So the council hereby adjourns at 2:24 p.m.
Okay,
I move.
Councilors.
I'll second.
Balmer, okay, Councilor Bailey. And all in favor, Councilor Balmer,
In favor?
Councilor, I'm rattled. Councilor Goida,
Favor.
Councilor Spillis,
In favor.
Councilor Bailey.
In favor.
Okay, that's carried.